Dear students, in the year 2001, in GS paper 1, a question was asked: discuss the main objectives of the Indian national movement up to 1905. What were the basic weaknesses during this period? So, there are three main elements of this question. One, the cutoff year 1905, the main objectives, and the weaknesses of the national movement. The question is, why 1905 as the cutoff year? This is because the period up to 1905 was a period of the moderates like W.C. Banerjee, Firoz Shah Mehta, Dadabhai Naoroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, etc. However, in 1905, with the partition of Bengal by Lord Curzon, the nationalists became aggressive. A Swadeshi movement was started which emphasized the need for using goods made in India. As I said earlier, the period from 1858 to 1905 is generally known as the moderate phase of the nationalist movement. But how did nationalism arise in the first place? Prior to the advent of the British in 1600, India had been under a Mughal empire for a few centuries. But the Mughals were viewed as aggressors and therefore they did not have widespread acceptance. During the mutiny of 1857, the Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar emerged as the common rallying point, and a vague sense of the Indian nation took shape. But since the mutiny could not succeed, it did not produce a sense of the nation in a real sense. Therefore, one can say that a national movement for independence started with the formation of the Indian National Congress in 1885. The Indian National Congress was formed on the initiative of A.O. Hume, who was a former civil servant and felt that resistance against the presence of the British in India was on the rise, and therefore a forum must be created to ease tensions and misunderstandings. But what was started primarily to smoothen the stay of the British in India became the starting point of a national movement. Although the mutiny of 1857 had failed, yet it affected our national psyche in important ways. It crystallized the British as the common adversary of all Indians. The question of who would rule after the British moved into the background, and evicting the British became the immediate priority. The takeover from East India Company by the British Empire in 1858 indicated that the British had intended to stay on and not leave the country. Okay, what were the objectives of the nationalist movement during this period? The objectives were to create awareness among people about a sense of nationhood and about the crass exploitation of our national resources by the British Empire, to work against social inequalities and gender discrimination within our society, to spread education to create a better society, to seek better administration from the British government. The Congress believed in dialogue and debate and felt that the British could be convinced to mete out better treatment to their Indian brethren. Now, the achievements made by this phase of the national movement. The protests as well as petitions of the nationalists widened the base of the nationalist movement. They gave articulation to the emerging middle class of doctors, lawyers, authors, and thinkers. They helped to rally people along the concept of one nation. Now, finally, the shortcomings or the weaknesses of the movement. The discussions and meetings remained restricted to the educated few. They could not touch the hearts of the masses. They were not very effective in getting their requests accepted by the British government. They could not appreciate the power of the masses as did Gandhiji a decade later. So, dear students, this was just a kind of a model of how you need to attempt a question like this. You need not unnecessarily clutter your answer. You need to be very specific. They have asked for objectives and weaknesses, and that's exactly what we have done. All the best.